Yeah, well, when I was young, I heard them in Phoenix, but I was 14 or something like that, and I remember asking him a silly question. I went backstage. I don't know how I went backstage, but it's like I don't know how I had the gumption to do that, but I did. Maybe my teacher took me or something. And they were very nice. And then in 1974 in Cleveland, they came in. I was really a big devotee of the Budapest String Quartet, so I had all their recordings of Beethoven quartets and Smetana and Dvorak American Quartet and all these things, and I was kind of a one thing person. I would like latch on to something and at the expense of hearing other things, which is also very limiting, I must say. But they came in to play a performance and then to coach the groups the next day. So I went into the concert thinking, well, okay, this is going to be nice. I've heard these guys are good, but they're not the Budapest Quartet. And they started with the Mozart E-flat quartet. And after 15 seconds, it was like somebody knocked the air out of me. I couldn't believe the quality of sound and the unanimity of their ensemble, and yet four strong individual, personalities. Nobody sounding like anybody else, but when they played together, it was unbelievable. And by the end of the second piece, which was intermission, I was kind of in a daze, in a fog, and I got up to leave because I thought it was the end of the concert. I seriously didn't know what time it was. And I think it was the Debussy Quartet or something they had just played. And I saw people sitting around reading their programs and thought, wow, it must be kind of a casual place where people just relax after the concert. Then I realized it was not the end. So then I realized at that moment that my 9 a.m. coaching was with Michael Tree, and it was the Smetana Quartet, which I thought, I've got this down like that. And I couldn't, my bow shook like the most it's ever shaken in my whole life. That was the toughest performance. And then in my own future about that, because I was so messed up about Michael Tree and the viola playing with that chocolatey sound, is that I just wanted to know everything about him and them and all that stuff. And then it was my summer teacher, Heidi Kassaman, who said, why don't you sound like you're pretty serious about this. Why don't you go to Curtis? I said, there's no way I could do that. And she said, well, maybe there is. And so she pushed me, and I auditioned and transferred after 3 years at USC to Curtis in 1970, the next year and a half later. And that was beautiful. And then, of course, the first time I asked to play with the Guarneri Quartet after graduating Curtis. And with me being such a groupie, like that was like so meaningful. And in the first rehearsal, imagine how nervous you would be for that. First rehearsal, Arnold Steinhardt stops. He just stops, and then he looks at me and he says, so what do you want to be doing with your life? And I thought, well, let me see. And in my head I said, Walter Trampler is like the world's leading viola player that plays with all the great quartets. He's like the go-to guy. And he was this dashing, handsome, dapper. When he was poor, he went to the secondhand clothing shops on 2nd Avenue, and he would buy these beautiful clothes, and then he would sew lace on the shirt fronts. The guy had such an impeccable taste, and you get shoes, and he would get like velvet shoes and sew belt buckles on the front of the shoes, and amazing guy, just a fashionista of the highest magnitude. And so I thought, well, this is going to be a clever answer. I said, well, I want to be the next Walter Trampler. At which point, all 4 of them turned and looked at my feet. Because of the shoe thing, And I was wearing tennis shoes, and they said, well, you've got a little learning to do that. And they were so nice and kind to me. But you know, they knew me because I think I probably, in between 1974 and when that took place, I probably went to 200 Guarneri concerts. You know, I'd always show up backstage, even before they knew who I was. They'd see the same, you? Why? What are you doing? You know?